have Latin letters that we're using. The only difference is it was pronounced E. Okay, so there it is in Latin. Now the epsilon in Latin is the letter E, is the way it would be pronounced. Okay. Then we have the sigma, which equals the Latin S. And then we have that OU sound, which is combined together, the omicron and the upsilon using a U. And then the final sigma is the Latin S again. Now, this is beginning to look more familiar. Jesus. Again, even in Latin, the I had a yes sound at the beginning. So it was a little bit closer. They didn't have the SH sound either, and they also had the grammar issue. So it went from the Greek to the Latin and looks more like this. Now look at the cases in Latin. You have the genitive, which doesn't change like it did in the Greek. You have the nominative, which does. It adds the S. You have the accusative, which adds an M on the end rather than a nun or a nu in the Greek. You have the dative, which doesn't add the letter, and you have the vocative. Okay. In the Tyndale Bible, this is Tyndale's translation in 1534. If you will notice, it says, she shall bring, notice this spelling doesn't look anywhere similar to what you're used to. She shall bring forth a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, for he shall save his people from their sins. You know, the printing press, it changed the world in ways that we don't understand. When it first came out, it was like you have to spell everything differently because that's how you show you're intelligent. If you can't spell a word 3 or 4 different ways, then you must be an idiot. There wasn't standardized spelling. But then Webster came along and did it according to alphabetical order. And when he created that alphabetical order, you had to standardize the spelling for you to be able to look up a word. So standardized spelling came in with the Webster's Dictionary in English. That's very late, folks. We're talking about the very early 1800s before we had standardized spelling. Did you know I have an old copy of the Webster's Dictionary, one of the originals? I mean, I said I have it. It's actually my father's. But anyway, in that dictionary, there is no separation between the I and the J. They are considered the same letter, even though there's a little distinction made. Of course, you had the I, which was a straight stick, and then you had the J, which had a slight crook at the bottom. That's just trying to tell you it was pronounced a little differently. They were the same letter. And so if you wanted to look up the word Joseph or Jacob or any of those, you had to look in the I's to find it in alphabetical order. It had the little crook still, but it was still an I. Okay, if you will look in this English translation of the Bible in the 1500s, it has IESUS. It just used the Latin spelling exactly. Why not? We use the Latin letters. Look in the Luther Bible. Luther Bible was written in 1545. I know you guys don't read German, so I'm not going to try to to do anything there. And my pronunciation wouldn't be great either, but if you will notice, you get down there, you have Jesus. It's those Germans' fault. They put the J in it. Well, English is a Germanic language. You have to understand, we are derived from the German language. We have a lot of Latin that's been put in there, a lot of French, because the Normans invaded England and ruled England for many years, so French got into our language. But still, the Germans are our parent language. But here's something that you need to know about Germans. Their J was pronounced Y. J-A, their word for yes, is Ya. So they were saying Jesus. They didn't have an SH letter either. Okay. So, in 1599, when the Geneva Bible was put in, we took the German spelling because it was more correct. It had the Y sound to it, and our I sound, while it was recognizing the J to be a variation of the I, our I sound we were wanting to pronounce a little differently, I or E. And so here we have the J added in by the Germans. And suddenly you have what we're now calling Jesus, the same spelling. Okay, Geneva Bible uses Jesus. Remember, we were talking about the sibilants earlier. And S as in single and Z as in these, or as, or is. You see, in English, we have a confusion between the S and the Z. This is unusual. They don't have this in other languages. In ours, we do. So neither Greek nor Hebrew confuse the S or the Z sound at all. So the S sound letters are the sin and the samic, and the Z in the Greek, it's the sigma. And of course, the sigma can be done in three ways. They have the uppercase sigma, which looks like that capital E. That's about the best we can describe it. Or the circle, like an O, a cursive O. Or the final sigma, which is just only at the end of a word, where it looks more like our S. A little distorted, but it looks like our S. Those are the S-sounding letters. And then in the Z-sounding letters are the Zion in Hebrew, or the zeta, uppercase zeta, lowercase zeta. Those are your Z sounds. Those are your S sounds. Notice that there's a genitive, a nominative, a dative, accusative case. Notice over here to the side, I have a word there. This is the word Zeus. Right? Neither Greek nor Hebrew confuse these letters. So, notice that there is no similarity between the word Zeus and the nominative case of Jesus, except they both end in US. Where in the world did that come from? It didn't come from the US. It came from the nominative case always ends in that manner for a name. You know, we have an E that transliterates the epsilon in English, but if you'll notice, the epsilon is not used in the Greek of Yeshua. It is, our E is used in Jesus, But there's no epsilon over there. There's an eta instead. Look at all the different forms of the word Zeus in the Bible. If you will notice, they don't even have a Z. They start with a delta. They didn't even use the word Zeus in the first century. That was an archaic usage. You can go through the Greek text in the Bible, and if you can show me Zeus in there, see, that's the thing. What you're going to find is Deus. So, if you'll notice, Deus does not equal Jesus at all. You've heard Messianics say that Jesus came from Zeus. It's blatant ignorance. I don't want to be unkind. I just want to define it as what it is. They have not studied the arts of transliteration. They do not study the time period. The first century didn't even use Zeus. And they're making this skip because Jesus and Zeus sound similar. You just leave off the G part, you know. But it's not correct. It's taking things out of context. It's taking them anachronistically, where it's in the wrong time period. And it's making associations that aren't even there. This is not scholarship. And I don't blame anybody in this room who's done it, okay? I have a confession. I had somebody show me this many years ago who I thought was one of the most scholarly people in the world when they did it. And I thought very highly of what they did. I will not give you a name because I'm sure you think they're very scholarly also. and I'm not trying to knock anybody here. This is a natural thing in the English language. It would not work in German. It wouldn't work in Spanish. It wouldn't work in any other language. But in English, because of the confusion of the S and the Z, we see a similarity that doesn't exist. Okay. There's another statement that Jesus comes from the Hebrew word, the horse. Okay, I've heard that one too. And in fact, the truth of the matter is I heard it from the same guy who said it came from Zeus. It was kind of like, can you make up your mind here? Did it come from Zeus or did it come from the horse? I did finally get to the point of saying, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But it took me a few years of studying languages to get an understanding of why he didn't know what he was talking about. Okay, the horse. In Hebrew, Hasus. That is correct. All right. If you transliterate that into Greek, it's going to look like this. You got to have a little breath mark, incidentally, that thing that looks like an apostrophe at the front. That's actually a breath mark. And it's saying you got to go. So if you transliterate it into that, you'd have two S sounds, ha, sus. So, do you see any similarity between that and the nominative case of Jesus in Greek? There's no similarity at all. You see, this is made on a fiction. It's made on a lack of understanding even what transliteration is. It's made from a lack of understanding the nuances of different languages and how we have to put them together. How, you know, if you want to replace the letters of one, it's just not always going to work. In English, we'd have to say Asos. Asos does not equal Jesus. This is the Septuagint, Exodus 17:10. Look through that. Do you see anything there that looks familiar? Right there. Exodus 17:10. Who's that probably speaking about? You see, there wasn't an evil motive with this. It's speaking of Joshua. It's not trying to connect Joshua with Zeus in any way. It's not trying to call Joshua the horse. It's just trying to transliterate it into another language so that it can be pronounced properly. The only thing is from that language, from Hebrew, to the other language, Greek, it's an impossible task. It's the best that they could do, but it's an impossible task. If we assign evil motives to what everybody does, we can paint them in bad light. We can make them really look bad. We can make them look evil, and we can be totally misrepresenting the people. When we totally misrepresent the people, this is a false witness. It is profaning their name. It is forbidden by Torah. It is Lashon Hara. It's serious. Now, if you've done this, I'm not here to make you feel bad. I'm here to say, I understand. Believe me, I really do understand how that happens. That's why I went through this explanation. So it's okay. All we have to do is say, I'm sorry, Lord, this was a sin of ignorance. I repent. I didn't know it was wrong. I'm wrong. I'll stop doing it. And then when somebody else shares it with you, you can say, well, maybe I have a video you need to look at. Because trying to explain it will probably just get you in deep water with them, okay? I think this systematically written down and shown gives the explanation. Without the system, it doesn't. So you need to be prepared to give an entire hour talk if you want to do it yourself. This isn't poor linguistics. You see, they're actually just trying to do what they're trying to do to the best of their ability, what they're trying to do, and they're doing a good job. It's just a simple case of transliteration that with hindsight, where we are today, we can find a better solution in our language. We could just write Joshua. And you know what? Then we'd be like the Spanish people, because there's thousands of little kids running around that are named Jesus. But in the English culture, we would never call anybody Jesus. But we call him Joshua all the time. You know, the fact that we don't get this connection, most people don't realize that Yeshua of the New Testament is actually the same name as Yehoshua of the Old Testament. We miss that connection, and there's even one prophecy that's talking about Joshua, sort of, the one who comes after you, and it's also speaking about Yeshua. Okay, it didn't have to change the names to make it speak about Yeshua. It becomes more obvious when you realize that this is the same name. So if I was going to go on a campaign for the English Bible, I would probably transliterate it a little bit better. Both of them. Or at least just call him Joshua. But boy, that would throw everybody into a tizzy, wouldn't it? So I'm definitely not against using the name Yeshua or Yehoshua. I use Yehoshua more often because I'm trying to emphasize the Hebrew. But that doesn't mean somebody who knows him by Jesus has A, done anything wrong. All they did was read the text the way it was written. Or B, that they have any evil motive. There's no evil motive. And for me to communicate to them at first, it's better for me to break it over easily. In other words, most of the time speak Jesus and then throw in Yeshua a couple times, and then, oh, I'm sorry. That's Jesus to you. Yeshua and Jesus are the same. It's just that one's pronounced Hebrew, and sometimes I forget. You do that about 4 or 5 times, and they start getting used to Yeshua. And over a period of time, they can hear Yeshua and associate them exactly as being the same. That's the intent in the Hebrew Roots movement, is to help people understand that Yeshua is the same as Jesus, and that's his Aramaic name. They think it's his Hebrew name, but it's his Aramaic name. And as you break them in slowly, you will probably be able to get other ideas across. If you cram it down their throat, you won't be able to get any of your ideas across. Well, tomorrow we're going to talk about another linguistic misunderstanding that we have in the Hebrew Roots movement, which is causing division in the Hebrew Roots movement. It's just linguistic. It's very easy to solve and understand, to where the fight just diminishes, and we can still even have our differences of opinion and not have any problems with the differences of opinion. So tomorrow morning we'll go over that. Thank you so much for your attention. If you have any questions, feel free to come talk to me.